and go.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of 2.5 Salesmen. I'm your host, Mario, together with my co-host, Julio, where we talk all things sales in a completely raw and unfiltered fashion. Julio, how are you, my man?
Very good. Still
Looking
sporting.
phenomenal as always.
I
Are you
know,
maybe Italian?
I think so. I think so. I don't know. I never met my parents,
Only Italians look as good as you do right now, man.
I don't know.
This
I
is
was
just
found
phenomenal.
somewhere. I was found somewhere, educated by wolves and salespeople.
You just told the origin story of Rome, which is so
Exactly.
Italian.
Exactly.
I was raised by wolves. I have a twin brother.
and I killed him. Anyway,
and I killed him to become the first king of Rome.
Yeah, good man. How are you doing?
I am doing excellent. This is a phenomenal time and place to be alive, with a whole lot of opportunities, especially for us salespeople. I'm just watching the IT layoffs, and let's see how well this episode will age. Hopefully, it doesn't last too long, but and I've been saying this for years, and then we will dive right into the episode. We've been training software developers for what? Better part of 25 years. And this is what you get. You get oversaturation.
True. Although, I actually think the tech industry is just going to grow. It might go for peaks and troughs, but at the end of the day, it's still going to grow. So I'm not overly concerned for our futures, let's say.
I'm not. No, I'm completely completely confident. All right, yes. So let's dive into today's episode. Today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, is about how to land your dream sales job.
Ooh, I like this one.
A very good, very hot topic. And actually, this was inspired, I think Julio has inspired me, because at this point in time, I am looking to switch, but this won't be about that. It's a really good episode because I do have let's say, 4 or 5 acquaintances that are currently looking for, well, some of them are unemployed and some of them have jobs and want to switch. And they are so passive, man. They're not in sales, but I think this episode should maybe be for everyone, not just in sales, but we will kind of focus on sales because we have to so all of that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna start right off the bat.
Yeah.
With a very simple, unpopular statement as usual. So, what can salespeople do to find a dream job? Simple: quit sales and actually go find a job you like.
Don't discourage people going into sales. We need salespeople, man.
I was actually seeing like 80% of salespeople are not committed to their job. It was probably some shitty statistic, but I'm like, probably not 60, but maybe 50. Yeah, that's about right.
I mean, I didn't just go into sales as a transition. I mean, I did hear this line, but let's say that you are really passionate of going into sales, or you are already in the sales and want to land a job. So what I propose is let's break this podcast episode into 3 parts. Right? So SDRs, account executives, and sales leaders. So
I like that.
VP, head of sales, director of sales, whatever the title is of an executive.
I like that. Okay, so shall we start with the lower brackets, and then for the sales leaders, you probably have some quite good ideas already anyway, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to reverse engineer this, right? And ask you, so what would impress you from an SDR if they were looking for a job?
Oh, well, I'll tell you right away if they call me.
Yes, that's exactly what I was hoping you would say.
So, my dear SDRs, if you can pay either Lucia or Lead IQ 70, 80 bucks a month, and you can source at least 50, 60, whatever number of, or forward one or whatever.
Show will give you 5 free credits a month as well.
Okay, so that's for free. But if you pay 50 or 60 or whatever, you will get a fair amount of mobile phones. So find the head of sales, find his data, and call him, man. Show him how you do cold calls and create that into a phone interview before you even apply.
I would actually say that if you're an SDR, you probably don't even need the phone number, because you can just call reception, go through sales, and if you talk to the sales team and you tell them, look, I'll be honest, I'm an SDR that wants a job in sales and I'm trying to call your boss, I think 50% of the people will put you through.
I would say 90. I would say 90. I would say that because we are coming here to the point where how do you talk to reception and switchboard and stuff like that. I always try to be like buddies with them, like the best friends, and I'm like, oh man, can you help me out? I've been racking, I don't know what to do. So please help me out. How do I get to Mr. John Smith? And then she will ask why, or why do you want it? Or you just confidently say, hey, can I talk to John Smith? This is Mario calling from ABC. As simple as that. And as SDRs, if you call the head of sales and he doesn't appreciate that you call him, that's not a good place for you.
True.
If he says, I don't take cold calls, your head of sales says that, and I've seen instances of like sales leaders telling, I don't want to receive cold calls. Maybe it is time to really reevaluate if this is a company for you.
True. You don't want to work in that type of place. It doesn't make any sense.
So how would you call a sales leader if you were a junior SDR?
I'll go direct. I'll be like, I'll be honest. You're not expecting my call. I actually want to work for you. I'm an SDR, and I'm cold calling you because what's the best way to reach you otherwise? Simple. I cannot imagine a sales leader. Again, it'll be like less than 10% of the sales leaders will not be impressed. Even the ones that don't take cold calls, which already you're a shitty sales leader if you don't take cold calls, to be honest. That's my impression. But even that, they will be like, okay, this guy's bright.
100%. One of the things I've seen, but this is more of a US kind of thing, is SDR booking meetings for companies they're not working for. I've seen this kind of a rare occasions that an SDR just goes out of the way to book a meeting.
So as a trial, you mean? Like they almost try themselves.
even before they apply. So even before they land an interview, and they will say, hey, my name is Mario, I'm calling from ABC. I love your company so much. I want to work here for you as an SDR. I have already scheduled 5 discovery calls. Who do I talk to get those transferred?
I mean, that sounds very American, first of all. And secondly, like, is that even legal? Can you actually?
No idea. But I've seen people do it. I've seen them do it.
You can work for a company and pretend you're working for another company. Like, I mean, maybe I guess Salesforce or this big organization where it's really hard to get into. Maybe you could do that. But yeah, it sounds a bit. I think if you're employed, that's actually legal. Like pretending you're like working for another company. Yeah, I'm pretty sure in the US you can get sued for stuff like this. But anyway, like,
I don't know. I'm just repeating what I saw on LinkedIn. I don't listen to me. I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. So this is not ladies and gentlemen, just a note. This is not a show on legal advice. And Julio and I are not qualified to dispense.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. True that. But yeah, I think cold calling. Obviously, that not cold calling, cold emailing, LinkedIn messages, anything creative, anything like that will just automatically put you at the top of the list. And let's be honest,
for sure.
Sales leaders don't give a crap about HR and processes. So if they'll get a good person, they'll put them in the process anyway. You're probably going to piss off HR, but hopefully that's not going to be the main reason that you don't get the job, right?
Well, I'm guessing you will only piss off HR if HR has a gigantic ego, right? If not, then they will see this as very proactive, as someone who actually wants to be in this company, and basically half of their job is done, man.
Yeah, true. I think overall the proactive approach is the best approach. Sitting there and applying for jobs, I think I actually saw just something and just advertise some friends. I don't know if you know the guys from We Have a Meeting. Jack and Zach, they do some amazing. They are going outsourcing agency, sales agency. They're amazing, and their interview process is they want the person to spend like 2-3 hours in a busy street in the center asking people for £50 just to see how they handle rejection. And I'm like, this is genius, but that's it.
When I was younger, when we did party sales, we did the same thing. So it was boys only, or boys mainly. And then we would go to town after we've done work. So we usually finish around 9 or 10. We would go to bars and just go to random girls and try to get their number on question 2 or question 3. Just ask for the number.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, just to face it. That's smart. Yeah, I mean, anyway, actually, this is something else we can build on top of that. As an SDR, I think if the person tells you no, but the sales leader is not interested, then I think you should try to handle the objection. And then you should follow up after that. If you really want that company, if you really want that job, then demonstrate that you're not deterred by the no. And eventually, either they don't have a role, and they'll try to make one for you, or maybe it really is just not going to happen. But at least you hammered all the options. You've really shown you're above and beyond.
Yeah. I know, man. It's. I mean, for the SDRs, it's all about the how you handle rejection and your cold calling skills. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
But just getting to the beginning of this conversation, what I'm seeing is a lot of candidates are very passive. Like super passive in their job search, right? I would say it doesn't matter if you're in sales or you're not in sales. I mean, let's just put sales aside at this point. Like, if you really want to work for one company or with one company, like, if you only apply, you are the same as everyone else. Okay, so if this sentence is true, if this is an axiom, how do you differentiate yourself from everyone else? Like, how do you prove that you're different? Maybe you are the best candidate for the role. How do you prove that you are? Because remember, the job interview is proving that you can do the job, advertised job, by a reasonable percentage.
Well, I mean, I think that the general thing that I've seen from the hundreds of interviews I did before was the level of preparation. I mean, I had a guy that came, and at the time I had done one podcast, and the guy had watched it. So he came to the one-on-one with me, quoting my words, and I was like, maybe you're just, really keen to, but again, if you're that keen and you're that willing to work for the job, why wouldn't I hire you?
Or at least take you into consideration.
Of course, or at least take you into obviously, if it's a really technical job and you completely like the skills, like if you gotta be a Python developer and you've never seen a Python code in your life, then obviously it's a different question. But otherwise,
I mean, and for sales, like, if you call me, I will get you into the process itself. I can't guarantee you will get a job, but I will get you into the process itself. When I hired SDRs for Centric, I had 2 guys ping me one on Slack in one of the message boards and
Mhm.
one on WhatsApp telling me, oh, I love like your philosophy. I love how you think about sales. I would love to work with you. As an SDR said, okay, appreciate this. I will get you into the process. Both of those guys flamed out. So they had really bad interviews, right? But I got them into the process. And
Yeah, of course.
that's the best thing you can actually do, right? If you're a sales leader and an SDR calls you, dude, just give them a chance to prove themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely, and then you can take it from there. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, and I think it's kind of resonating within the sales process, right? You got a person that gets the shot, and then if they don't play it well, then yeah, maybe it's not meant to be.
Of course.
Right.
All right, AIs.
So AIs, I don't. Where you always say AI? AIs.
I don't know why I'm saying AIs.
Because you're so
because of all of the artificial intelligence around us. AIs, account executives.
Account executive. So look, I think as an account executive, you start to have, again, the answer is the same for me, to be honest. I mean, I would still think, especially these days, with so many companies talking about the fact that account executives should be self-sourcing their pipeline. I think cold calling, cold emailing, anyway, the proactive approach will still stand out above and beyond. There's no real doubt about that. However, there's something cheeky that I would do.
Let's hear it. Listen up, people. Listen up. Gold coming.
It's quite cheeky, but if you're gonna go for a competitor, what shows that you're a good account executive, as well as you getting one of your clients to recommend you? You know. But at that point, your clients so well. You can be, hey, I want to work with these guys. I'm sure they prospected you before. Can you do me a favor and put a good word?
Oh, have you seen anyone do that? I love it, by the way. But have you seen people do this?
I heard this from a guy that I know quite well in the HR tech space. But it's always something that's like he didn't quite. He did it a bit more cleanly, so because he already left the company, and then he was interviewing, and then it was like, okay, I know these guys have been trying to get into this client because the client told me they were the last two, and then basically just got the client to recommend. But something like this, just you want to show that you can close a deal. Well, you've obviously closed it so well that the client is willing to recommend you even after. That's something like this is cherry on top, right?
Oh, okay. I have a different. I would recommend a different approach for AIs, right? So what I would, if you really want to go after a company, I would do in advance a lot of things that AIs usually do. Right. So first of all, I would definitely call whoever is the hiring manager to get into the process itself. But once there, I would try to maybe create a pitch. I would research the entire industry. I would try to learn as much about the product as I can from the website, but then I would use that knowledge to generate like talking pain points. Like what are the pains in the industry? Like what hurts?
Yeah, right? So making an assumption of their pains for the demo, basically.
For sure. Something in that manner. One of the things that companies usually do is they put up logos, right, of the companies that are using them. So what you can maybe do, and this is just a suggestion, try it out, is you can contact
no legal claim.
We are not lawyers, so don't. This is just for entertainment only. This is not legal advice. Maybe you could reach out to the ICP of the companies that are already the users and then ask, hey, I see on the website of ABC company that you are one of the clients. Can you tell me what is it like working with them? I am thinking of applying there. as an AI,
Yes.
and I kind of would want maybe 3 or 4 sentences regarding this.
That's a good idea as well. That's a good.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, actually, this kind of leads into a slightly different point, which is obviously, and this is actually probably even precedes cold calling, is if you can be referred in, that's always the best way.
Of course.
You know, we can talk about outbound being a very good lead generation tool, but statistics are very clear. Nothing is
referrals rule, of course.
yeah. So I think at that point, if you can, I was thinking in the AE as well, like if you can multi-thread the organization, right? Like the
Attack
sales,
on different levels.
exactly. Chief operating
And
officer.
then get them all on one email thread. do the meeting together and then de-thread. Then just say, hey, well, what did you like about me? What did you like about me? What did you like about me?
Something
Threading
like that.
and de-threading at the same time.
I mean, well, I think we're literally rewriting the guide on how you get a job in tech sales, right? Basically.
I mean, the system is obviously broken. I've seen sales leaders and like very qualified AIs applying for jobs and then getting rejected for literally no reason. Right? So the hiring managers, and it is a completely broken system to evaluate the salesperson. Whenever I interviewed in the past, right? So my question to the recruiter is always, how many salespeople have you interviewed this year? And how many salespeople did you hire? So do you know how to interview salespeople? And then what are you looking for? So these are kind of the, maybe guys, if you're still with us, and I think this is maybe our best episode so far. If you are still with us, just try to ask these questions, especially on your first meeting. Whoever does the hiring. So how many salespeople did you hire? What are you looking for?
I think, Mario, that there's a deeper problem though, is that one of the things I realized when I was
from the hiring industry, from recruitment.
exactly, like when I was doing all the recruitment, the main problem I face is that even sales managers, they just don't hire that much. You know, like I was doing like 5 interviews a day, and the average sales manager will probably do like 20 interviews a year, right? Because they don't hire that often.
I mean, why would you not? Like that was like, dude, I remember this. Let me tell you a story. And a shout out, he's not looking because his English sucks. But one of my early colleagues, this is 2006, right? So I was 26 years old. I was a very young I wasn't even a sales manager, right? I was an AI. But I was the best. And my CEO then sent me to do sales interviews. And I said, oh, all right, okay. I never done this in my life. Oh, here's the book by Brian Tracy called How to Hire Salespeople. Read it and then go. Oh, okay.
Wow.
But this guy comes in, and he's like one of my very good friends, even today. So after, right, 20 something years, almost 20 years. And he's like a much better salesperson than I am. Like he came from timeshare. Like he was a closer. And he asked me 2 questions and knows that I'm full of bullshit. That I have no idea what I'm doing, that this is my first round of interview. Because I didn't have the edge. I didn't know what to look for. I didn't know what to ask. I was like, look, I'm 26 years young, like a puppy thrown to the wolves. I got much better. But in every company I worked with, I always did at least one part of the interview. Like no way you're gonna hire without my blessing. If I'm a sales lead.
But
like,
this is what I'm getting at. Just sales leaders don't have that much. Hiring is very difficult.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I wouldn't honestly, I wouldn't say the process is broken. I would say that more that it's quite hard on its own, and we're not very good at refining it yet. Technology is getting, but like it's not so easy to hire the right salespeople because even crappy salespeople are quite good at bullshit. So
that is very correct.
So
but
it's
this is why you have to do interviews, because you sharpen your stick that way, and then you can't be bullshitted.
Now, Mario, you can only do interviews if you have enough hire. You know, you can't just randomly do interviews. So even unless you're working in a scale up which is hiring a lot, you're still not going to be involved in that many interviews in a year. So like while a salesperson knows sales, it's unlikely they really understand how to interview well, which is why sometimes actually I've seen talent acquisition be the opposite, where they're like,
so what resource, and I have one. So what resource would you recommend for maybe not sales managers per se, but anyone looking to hire? Like, what would be the kind of number one thing they should definitely read right now if they want to get better at hiring?
In terms of reading,
resource, book, whatever you want.
I actually don't know. I would probably say I think Jeff Blount wrote a book on sales recruitment, if I'm not wrong, and I always trust.
I didn't read it.
I didn't read it, but I would assume it's good. But actually, I would say something slightly different is that if the person has got experience, the best resource is the talent acquisition team. This is what they do for a living. You know, like as much as they don't come in and tell you how to sell, they usually know how to smell if someone is full of shit much more than even the salespeople.
The resource / philosophy that really opened my eyes was that he's now retired. Lou Adler, performance-based hiring. Blew my mind. And that's my go-to resource whenever I'm in the hiring cycle. I always come back to it. There are things like always do at least 30 minutes of the interview. If you like a candidate, ask him super tough questions. If you don't like him, ask easy questions in the first 30 minutes, so that your like him, don't like him gland goes down, because you don't want to base your hiring on a 50-50, on a flip of the coin.
True.
In the end, that ends up to that.
True.
All right.
True.
So let's summarize for account executives, right? Do guys do your research? Like a lot of it. Try to be proactive, even if you miss like top 5 pains of customers. It's fine, man. It's fine. You did your research. You thought about it. Maybe how are your demo skills? So maybe to talk about a little bit about how you are approaching the demo, how you're approaching post demo, how are you mapping the decision makers or buying influences if we are using Hyman Miller. So those sort of things should be prepared in advance.
And then obviously be proactive. Try to multi-thread the organization or the people, and then try to get, again, if you can cold call, if you can call them, if you can be referred, always the best way to get an interview.
Oh, for sure. All right. And last but not least, sales leaders, VP sales, head of sales. We did an episode whether or not to hire, if you're a startup, whether or not to hire head of sales or hire top of the funnel boys and gals. But let's say that you are now hiring a sales leader, right? So how do you approach this? If you're a sales leader and you want to work for the company.
I think in this case, it's got to be referrals. I actually think that you can cold call, sure, but at that level, I think if you get referred directly, it shows that you can network. It shows that you already understand the industry, and it shows that maybe if it's not someone you know that well, you can still.
You think industry knowledge matters?
We've had this conversation before. It's always a plus. Like it's
I would say it's not a plus, especially if you're a sales leader.
I disagree with that.
You don't?
Of course,
I
like
would say it can be hindrance.
look, it can be, but it's like saying that having played rugby is
Not the same thing. Playing sports and sales. Come on.
It really is.
It really is not.
It really is. It's both top competitive level, and good salespeople make good professionals and athletes, and vice versa. But it's like saying having played rugby doesn't make you a better American football player. You know, you still have got some of the transferable skills. Knowing people in the industry, understanding the pain, all of these things like are generally.
I would say you would so okay. Let's say you have two sales leaders, right? One of them, like two heads of sales, right? So you want to bring in someone who's a player coach.
Mario, we had this exact conversation, and we agreed that if they have the same skill level and one has got the industry knowledge, the one with the industry knowledge is better. But obviously,
what if there are different?
Well, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is the industry knowledge.
All right.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
All right.
Like, I understand that obviously you don't.
You see people.
High,
two guys can disagree and still love each other and look phenomenal.
I think the argument makes us stronger, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
But in any case, let's go back to the VP of sales.
Yes.
Right? So, like, I would say generally, so it's got to be from networking will show that you can leverage your contacts, your sales skills, etc. Will just have a different. Also, we talked a lot about this as well. The cost of hiring the wrong VP of sales, right?
For sure.
And if someone comes as a referral, you're taking away the biggest hurdle in the CEO's mind. Is gone.
Yeah.
Right. It's just gone.
I would say same with sales, right? So can you, as a sales leader, demonstrate, right, that you understand what are the business goals and how to effectively achieve them? So whatever your vision is of how to run a sales team, does that align with whatever the business goals are for the organization? Right? So, are you coachable? Can you coach? Can you lead people? Are you leading by fear, by title, or are you leading by personal example and support?
Yeah.
So how are you leading? Are you the person who says, do this, I'm your boss? Or you're the kind of person that says, do this, I've seen it work in this and this and this occasion, test it, let me know how it goes so that we can implement it on a wide range.
I think in a case like this, what is good is to bring references from both up and down. So if you can bring to the interview, to the process, the fact that you're recommended by your previous bosses or your underlings is always going to lend a lot of value. Because again, at this point, it's not just about your interview skills anymore. You can have great interview skills, but the process for a VP or even a sales manager is a lot more than just a couple of interviews usually, right? It could be like bloody 7 interviews, assessments, etc. So I think that you want to reduce the risk and increase the potential gains, right? So I think referrals and proof of concept obviously matter a lot.
I mean, it's very similar to how I think if you are a sales leader and then you're applying to the sales leadership position, you treat that as an enterprise grade account. And you run it like that.
Exactly.
Where you are the product.
Case studies, you need your champions, right?
Case studies. At least you need one case study. You don't need you don't need more, because there is a thing in enterprise sales called death by case studies. So basically, and it's a real thing. So you only need kind of one, but you do need to talk with multiple stakeholders, multiple buying influences. You need to demonstrate what are you bringing to the table. So what is the value? And then, of course, understanding what are the business challenges. And then last but not least is the jolt effect, which is make sure to mitigate any fears of them making a mistake by hiring.
Yes, yes. I think it's probably the number one. I mean, everyone, if you've been in the leader position for long enough, you made some bad hires. And
Sure.
usually they're the most painful learns that you go through, right? So
Yeah.
I think if you can mitigate that risk, you're winning the emotional battle. If you're winning the emotional battle, you're in a much better spot than most candidates anyway.
Yeah.
True.
All right. So anything to add at the end of this? I would say our best episode yet.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it as well. I think it's also because the market situation right now, a lot of people will take big value from this, I think. But yeah, I think we kind of covered most of the bases here. I mean, okay, one more thing, maybe just from the recruitment hat, is the spray and pray just doesn't work as well. You know, if you send the same CV to everybody, and the higher level you go, the worse it is. And actually, I would say for very high levels, it might be actually a negative if you start to multi-thread, and because they start to perceive it as desperation instead of proactivity, and then you actually lose points, because a very valuable VP of sales doesn't need to send his CV to 6 people, right? Or doesn't need to like.
But I would still, I would still call. It will. This is for startups, right? I would still call the CEO to set up a meeting, and then I would ask if the meeting goes well. I would ask to speak to COO, to head of product or CTO, and to whatever salespeople you.
I would say, yeah, even a bit bigger than startups, you can still do that. I would say once you get past the 50 employees, though, calling the, I think you can still, you know what, you can still call the CEO. We'll do something like, hey, I know you got my name from this guy. I just wanted to call to follow up. You know, something like that. I think would make sense.
Basically. Of course. Cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you sticking so far to the end, thank you very much for watching us. Please check out all of our other episodes. A lot of gold there. We are spreading knowledge like
we are true gold diggers.
Yes, like 2 gold diggers. Sexy, handsome gold diggers.
Absolutely. Serbian and Italian.
Serbian, what can go wrong? Of course. So make sure to like us and subscribe, and we will see you in our next episode. Until then, go out and sell, people.
Have a great day. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.